This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Lazar. Hello, everybody.
Nailed it.
Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match.
No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I mean, I have to dabble a little bit just because we get all these questions and I want to be like
Barth.
somewhat informed about it.
Barth's all over it.
Yeah, most of my takes are just disagreeing with Barth.
I've noticed that, and I don't follow it that closely, but I've noticed. No.
This is a Barth thing.
How many times? No, that's a Barth thing.
Yeah, but well, Michael
Barth
Penix
likes him a lot more
Michael
than I do.
Penix is legitimately a Barth thing. He keeps on trying.
I'm
to
not disputing you, but
he keeps
you
on trying
say
to
it a
sell
lot.
me on Michael Penix, and I'm like, it's a lefty. I can't do it. That is all it is. Like I it's so valid. If you flipped him, like if you give me the film of Michael Penix and we just flip him to a righty, then I'm probably in.
Well, remember they did that with Tua
And it looks so much
last
better.
year, right? So, seriously, I think I told this to you. I think I've said this to you before. Please just watch the Penix film flipped, and then tell me, and then do it.
I'll think about it. It's honestly not a bad idea because then it looks better. It does.
I get it. Aesthetically, left-handed quarterbacks are not. They don't hit right. Like
No.
it looks. I see so many people
It
who are
looks like their throwing motion is broken.
So many people say that to me. How do you like Penix's throwing motion? Is disgusting. I've watched it flipped. Does he have like the most beautiful throwing motion I've ever seen? No. Like it's like most college quarterbacks, his mechanics can be tightened up. But yeah, there's something about lefty quarterbacks where it just looks ugly. It feels like the ball's like too far back or whatever.
Yeah, I will
Watch
give
it
Penix.
flipped, it's fine.
I will give Penix this. I think he throws more dimes than any quarterback in this class.
Oh, yeah.
Just like absolute pinpoint.
Just put it on a guy.
Like, what PFF would call like perfect ball placement, right? Like not like in a keyhole, not necessarily just catchable, but just on an absolute dime to a receiver.
It's funny. Here we go right out of the gate.
Yeah.
One of the biggest knocks on him I've seen is that he's throwing to three receivers who are probably going to be top 150 picks. And
right.
people are like,
especially what's Rome
Rodunze?
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
You're gonna love him. I can't wait till you dig into him. But now you're gonna hate him that
Rome,
I said that.
Rome
but,
wasn't built in a day. But,
yeah, but his route running is you'll feel that. But everybody's like, oh, he has all these great receivers. How good can he be? Doesn't matter how good the receiver. You can put the ball between the numbers on me. Right? You put the ball between the numbers, you put the ball between the numbers. That's
you might not
on the
catch
quarterback.
it, but
I would not catch it, you're right. But he
hear
can still put it between the numbers.
Marie and I messed up the emails, of course, so you're like I'm just an idiot. I think I X'd out of something I shouldn't have. Anyways, good start. So we're gonna talk Patriots. Like I understand, and we have plenty of draft takes too. Somebody called in yesterday and said emailed in and said Evan's like self-proclaimed that he doesn't give a crap about the draft until January. So why should I believe any of his draft takes in November? It's a very valid point. Very valid point.
That's why I've told you to start watching these
But
guys.
at the same time, like when you're 2-8, you have to start to pay a little bit more attention to some of the draft stuff than I would like.
I can attest. I will tell people. I know you've watched more college football this year than you have in the past.
I have watched a little bit more college football this year. I think that this year the quarterback class, and this kind of tees off to what I wanted to open the show with, is really intriguing. It is, and I think that in some ways, 2021 was a really intriguing quarterback class as well.
Yeah,
you had two guys, and forget about the order that they went in.
Right.
You had two guys in Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields who were 5-star blue chip, day one starter type quarterback prospects. Thank you, sir. That everybody was on board with. Justin Fields, like Trevor Lawrence was like the golden boy forever at Clemson. Yeah. Justin Fields was like right behind him. He was a 5-star out of high school, the whole 9 yards. The guy was like the best player on quarterback since like the 8th grade. Like he was one of those types of guys. So that class was really good. And here we are 3 years later, and we're talking about the quarterback the Patriots took in that class potentially being out of a job. We are talking about a lot of those quarterbacks not panning out. So
are any 4 of those 5 guys probably won't be starting
next year?
Probably won't get a second contract from the team that drafted him. I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Trevor Lawrence's stats aren't great this year, but he's a winning quarterback, and I think that he's a good player. In general, though, where I'm at with Mac. On Tuesday on PU, I came in, I said, I'm out. I'm out. And, I said earlier in the season, I don't like me on Tuesdays. I get emotional. I get reactive. So I always let the dust settle by Thursday when we do this show, and I try to look at it maybe a little bit less emotionally. But to be honest with you, is it me? Is it you, Mac? Like, I'm sorry, trying to make up with it. No, it's over. It's over. I'm still out. I think the biggest reason is for this. The biggest question I had for myself was, why was this the final straw? Like, he's played poorly basically for a year and a half at this point.
Yeah.
So why was this game against Indianapolis the final straw? And I think for me, what it was is that he didn't have to make that many plays to win the game. He needed to make one play. And not only did he not need to make that many plays to win the game, he had a wide open touchdown to win the game.
Right, he had to make the play. It's not like the Washington game.
Yeah.
I would argue he made the play.
Right.
Even though it was an interception, and this is going to drive people up a wall, he made the play. It went through Juju Smith-Schuster's hands.
Yeah.
This was the inverse of that.
Yeah.
Twice he had tight ends open in the end zone. One ball he just misfires, like throws behind. Well, they both misfires, but one ball he misses behind and up, and it probably should have been picked. It wasn't. The next ball he misses well short.
Yeah.
That one was picked. So it's not like, again, the Washington one was weird.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I always say it like with the turnover-worthy plays thing, right? This guy's thrown so many interceptions, but look how many of them clanged off a receiver's hands. Or this guy's thrown so few interceptions, but look how many were dropped by defensive backs. I believe in time it all evens out. And that's what the last 2 weeks were, right? Yeah. It evened out. You had the Juju Smith-Schuster play was one where Mac made a great throw to win the game.
Right.
And the receiver dropped it, and he probably took more heat than he should have.
Yeah.
And then you have this one where the play was there to be made, and he didn't make it.
Yeah. And I still want to say that I still feel that the biggest piece of the blame pie goes to Bill Belichick in the way that the organization has run the quarterback. Like,
yes.
It's still an organizational failure that Mac Jones has gotten here, even if we can all admit that Mac Jones is now here. Like, you made him David Carr.
Right. So
congratulations, everybody. You ruined it.
Here's
job.
what I've said to these people who are like, how dare you question Bill? People think we side with Mac over Bill or whatever that is.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that there's two parts in this. One, if Mac was just bad and that's all it ever was, and that's all this is, period. If you swap Mac out, they're a playoff team.
Yeah.
Who brought Mac here? People act like it's this, this supernatural force.
But it's also just like,
and I would say,
and then you knew the quarterback you were getting, though.
Right. So there's a second part of that. Okay, Bill drafted Mac, and Mac let him down. If that's your take, you have to look me in the eyes, or I get to put it in the chat or whatever, put it in the comments, and tell me you'd be perfectly okay with the next three. If they draft a quarterback this year, the next 3 years playing out just like the last 3 years. No premium acquisitions on offense, 3 offensive coordinators, throwing the kid under the bus in the media. Like, if you're telling me that that's how you want the quarterback handled, fine. Then you can tell me that Mac let Bill down.
Yeah.
But I would say that's not how the quarterback should be handled.
This is a broken player.
Yep.
They have broken him. He is physically and mentally broken. And I guess that you can look at it and say, the bye week might be the mental break that he needs, and maybe he does start against the Giants.
He was good after the bye last year. I think he had 10 touchdowns, 4 picks after the bye last year.
The stats were okay. I don't know if he was
all right.
good.
He was better. He was notably better.
The biggest thing from this game, I thought, was from the jump, first of all, pressure was an issue. From the jump.
Yeah.
And the very first drop back, I said it to you, the very first drop back, Cole Strange gets beat by DeForest Buckner, and Mac gets blown up in the pocket. Like, literally the very first time he drops back to pass. On the third down play, on the opening drive that he actually converted to Mike Gesicki, I thought that entire play still had like 16 things wrong with it. Like, they show double A gap pressure at the mug front. The linebacker drops out. The linebacker drops out underneath Mike Gesicki's route. Now, I think he was reading Mac's eyes when he dropped out, but he ended up throwing a tight window throw when he didn't need to throw a tight window throw. If he had just come off of the drop by the linebacker and opened to his right instead of to his left, they actually busted the coverage on the right-hand side out of the trips, and Kayshon Boutte is just wide open at the sticks. Nobody covers him. It's a coverage bust. And so he everything that you watch him do, it just seems like everything is a little bit broken. Like even the completions, even some of the good plays. I say good plays. The plays that he should have made in this game that he was able to make, and then as you see it progress, it just unravels even further and further from there. And you have plays like the one that O'Brien chewed him out for on the sideline, where he's just got 3 open receivers, and you just got to pick one. Like, I don't care where you throw the ball to, but the ball's got to come out to somebody. Like, whether it's Hunter Henry over the middle, whether it's Ramondre in the flat, whether it's Juju, on the right sideline, there has to be a throw there. And it certainly can't be the underhand shot put thing that he did, right? There has to be an on-time throw there. Then you had the Hunter Henry miss, which I thought at the time was probably the worst miss that I've ever seen him have this season, where it's just a balloon ball behind him, off target, dropped interception, wrong club, wrong ball placement, wrong feet, wrong everything.
It felt a little similar to the pick he threw to Ramsey in Miami, in that ball, I see what he's looking at. I don't think it was an incorrect read.
No.
He needs to just zip the ball in there, and instead he went with the touch pass.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say the pick in Miami, that's been a lot of his throws this year. If he zips it in, like, again, the throw he made against Washington, that was the right throw, even though it was picked off. And he loves that touch pass, man. He loves that touch pass. Well,
does he love the touch pass, or is he just a touch thrower?
All right, fair.
Right? So
no, because I've seen him. He can zip the ball at times. Like, he's done it. He doesn't do it regularly, but he's done it. It's probably a little bit of both.
The interception to end his day
is the opposite.
On Sunday is the worst throw I think I've seen a quarterback make all year. And I watch a lot of quarterbacks, and I watch a lot of bad ones. Like the Patriots.
Oh, I don't know. There was some.
No. That was the worst throw I've ever seen a quarterback
This isn't
make.
To defend Mac. There was the one Brock Purdy made. It was one of the games they lost. I think it was against the Vikings, where he's mid-sack and he throws the ball backwards.
I guess
this isn't even a Mac thing. That play was just hilarious. I want an excuse to bring it up.
Maybe given the circumstances.
All right, given the situation, fine. I just wanted to bring that up. It was a very funny play.
This was like the equivalent of like when a hockey player has a breakaway, 1-on-1 with the goalie with the puck on his stick to win the game, and he misses the net.
Yeah,
right? Like
that.
That's the
atrocious throw. And he said that.
It almost looks like he had the yips, right? Like it almost looks like he completely just made a terrible throw. And at that point, watching it and being there, you could look at the players on the field.
Yeah.
You could look at Mac. His reaction was tough to watch. I felt for him in that moment. I did. The slouched over. He's kind of put his hands on his knees and slouched over. Then he got back his composure again, started walking towards the sideline, and then he slouched over again.
Yeah.
Just because he just so dejected and couldn't believe it. And I thought to myself then, I was like, that might be the last pass he ever throws as the starting quarterback of the Patriots. That might be a chance. That might be it. That might be curtains on Mac Jones's Patriots career. And we on this show in particular have digressed about how we got here and all the personnel moves and all that type of stuff. But this was the final straw for me with Mac Jones, because if you're going to convince me that Mac Jones is the guy, that he is the franchise quarterback of this team and he's worth building around and all that kind of stuff, I don't care if it's pressure. I don't care if you're throwing to 2 6-round rookies. I don't care. You have to make that play.
Yeah, you
have to make that play.
And look, Vidarian Lowe gets beat bad on that play. There's pressure coming off the edge. He got beat pretty bad.
He got beat. He gets beat, but I wouldn't call it bad. But I've seen worse.
But here's the thing. Mac has to do one of two things. He either has to move, reset his feet, and then throw quickly, or he has to just wear the hit and deliver the ball, which is what a franchise quarterback. Sometimes, if you're a franchise quarterback, sometimes you just have to wear the hit and to make the play. Instead, he sort of just leans away from the pressure and throws off balance. And I think that, this is not new. We've seen him do this a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason the throw comes up short, because he's not thrown. There's no legs. There's no lower half in that throw. And that, to me, is kind of where you look at it. And if they're going to make a decision, move on, I think you look at a play like that, and it's, well, this guy's not, he has zero feel in the pocket right now.
Yeah.
He has zero feel, and you just can't, especially with this offensive line, you can't be competitive with a quarterback that has zero feel in the pocket. Now,
He's David Carr. They've turned him into David Carr.
It's a little Josh Rosen-y even.
Yeah,
I would say.
He's seen ghosts. He's flinching and reacting to pressure at every waking moment. He's broken, and I don't know how you proceed from here with that quarterback. There's a lot of quarterbacks though that this is permanent. That's the thing that I think that.
Well, that's Josh Rosen,
right? Or David Carr. It's very hard once that PTSD kind of sinks in. It's very difficult to break that cycle, and I think at this point we can say that there's probably a better chance that he's permanently broken than there is of him fixing himself.
At the very least, it's not going to happen here.
And it's not going to right. It's not going to happen this season, and it's not going to happen here.
Right. Like, can he go somewhere else? Could he have? I mean, Geno Smith is like 10 years. Maybe it's not that extreme, but could he do that thing? Go be a backup for a couple years, kind of reset himself, get another chance down the road. Yeah, I could see that. But no, he's done here. And then the other element of it is the way he was pulled from that game.
Yeah.
I've never, and there's been a lot of talk about this, and I still haven't seen an example of it, of a quarterback being pulled ahead of a 2-minute drill to win a game. And whether it was intentional or not, that's a message from the coaching staff. Hey, it's time to win the game. The guy who we rode with for the first 58 minutes can't do that, so we're going to make a change. It's a disservice to both quarterbacks, because the message it sends to the rest of the team and to the rest of the league and the fans about Mac Jones is basically, we don't believe he can win football games.
Yeah.
And some people sitting there like, yeah, I knew that. They're 2-8. No, when the head coach says it that blatantly, you don't see that.
Right.
You don't see that. It's also a disservice to Bailey Zappi. He's going in cold.
I have no sympathy for Bailey Zappi.
I'm sorry, I do, because he's going in cold, not just in the sense that he hasn't played all day. He hasn't played a snap since week 5. He hasn't played a meaningful snap in almost a year. And look, he needed to handle it better than that. He was clearly flustered. There was that confusion. I don't know if it came across this way. You haven't watched the TV broadcast, have you? I know you normally just watch the All-22.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it came across in person, but at one point they had ruled, the Patriots asked for a measurement.
Yeah.
And the refs just said, no, it's a first down. And I don't think that was ever communicated to everybody. So he's like totally flustered in the moment, goes with the fake spike, blah, 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 whatever. But like, he's in the game ice cold there. You can't put him in that spot. That's not right to him. So
I think that they had to. I think that they had to, because
no. At that point, you can't. You can't do it, Evan. It's never been done.
What choice did they have? That you can't put Mac back in that
You ride
game.
it out with Mac Jones, and then you sit him after that. You can't. There's a reason that's never been done. There is a reason that has never been done. The message it sends, whether intentionally or not.
The message it sends is the message that needed to be sent. I'm telling you that this team.
You could have sent the same message by just benching Mac Jones after the bye and not feeding Bailey Zappi to the Wolves.
I understand what you're saying. I just, watching the sideline and watching the 10 other guys on the field after he threw that interception on the Gesicki play, I hate the reports about the locker room now is out on Mac and all this kind of, I don't, it's not nothing against the people reporting it. I don't think that reports like that are really, what do they do for anybody, right? Like all they're doing is getting a headline for the people reporting them. That's just my opinion. But at the same time, you can't keep on rolling out a guy that is an error repeater.
Then you needed to bench him after the throw to Henry.
I understand what you're saying, that it put Bailey Zappi in a bad spot, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but at some point, enough is enough.
Okay, well, let me add to it. We went out at practice yesterday. Mac Jones was the first quarterback up.
Yeah.
Made it look like he's still going to be the starter.
Yeah.
How do you now go back to Mac after that? Because, all
know.
right, fine. The message that needed to be sent.
Yeah.
But now you're going to go back to him? So you've told your team, you've told your fan base, you've told the entire world.
I wouldn't overreact to that. Like, they know that if we go out there and we see Bailey Zappi as the first quarterback up with the starting offensive line and everything, that's a headline, right? That's an immediate headline of Bailey Zappi.
And it's not a headline if Mac is getting it now and then Zappi's getting it next week. No, they wanted us to see that for a reason.
They wanted us to see it, but it's way less of a story.
Not after the way that game ended. And that's the point.
You don't think that it's less of a story?
The way that game ended, there's no starting quarterback. The way that game ended.
But there's no starting quarterback in terms of, like, I don't know, we're getting to semantics, but there's no starting quarterback in terms of the future. You know,
the way that game ended told me they do not believe they have a quarterback that can win them games.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Whoever is taking the reps, it's notable.
It's notable, but it's headline news.
I think it's the same, because if Bailey Zappi took him, we would have been like, all right, yeah, you look at how the game ended. Of course it was going to be Zappi. No, I think it's the same amount. I think they hold the same amount of weight.
I don't. I think that if every single talk show in Boston would be leading off with the fact that Bailey Zappi was taking first.
They all led off with the fact that Mac was.
It wasn't the same. It's not the same. It's not the same.
I don't know. I think that was a disservice by the coaching staff, the way they handled the quarterbacks at the end of that game. I think it was a disservice to both of them.
I guess, I don't know. I don't have any sympathy for either of them at this point, because I gave Mac all the sympathy in the world for the Patricia thing.
It's not, but here's the thing.
At this point, it's just like, you got to make some plays, dude.
It's not an excuse thing. The opportunities you have aren't always going to be perfect. Make the most of the opportunities you have. It's not an excuse thing. But Evan, it goes back to what we talked about when we started this whole conversation. If this is how the coaching staff is going to manage the quarterbacks, the problem does not end at the quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? And let's say it's 2 years from now, and we were talking about Michael Penix earlier, so I'll use him.
Yeah.
Michael Penix, he's in his second year. He's still learning. There's no talent around him. He's struggling late in the game, and they pull him for Taylor Heineke late in the game. Same problem. You're going to have the same. If they do this again with two different quarterbacks, you're going to have the same problem. And that's my point.
I don't disagree with you. I in that respect. Like, this, to me, and this is what we've kind of tried to lay out on the show all year, I would say, or maybe not all year, but at least recently, once we've kind of realized that, all right, this might be over here for Mac Jones. All of this now is about learning from your mistakes, right? Like, you have to learn from the fact that you ruined this quarterback. Why did we get here? And when I say ruined, I know a lot of people say he was never good. You know, they coddled him with kid gloves in his rookie season to get him to be a net positive quarterback, and that he was always going to get here. And if you believe that, then I'm not going to sit here and argue with you over semantics of whether or not Mac Jones stunk to begin with or just stinks now or whatever. But the bottom line is that if you look at his rookie season film, you see a different guy. You see a different guy. You see a more confident quarterback. You see a guy that has quiet feet in the pocket. You see a guy that's making throws within the framework of the offense. And you see a functional NFL starting quarterback that was probably destined at that point to be somewhere between the 10th and 15th best quarterback in the league. And it has just fallen off in every single way, shape, or form, from the personnel around him to the coaching around him to his play, has just completely deteriorated. And at this point, you have to learn from that mistake.
Right.
So if you want to say that them benching Mac at the end of that game is malpractice in terms of how to handle quarterbacks and things like that, I don't disagree with you, and that can never happen again here.
Yes.
All this benching and the wishy-washiness from Belichick
the games,
to
they're games. Call them what they are. They're games. They're mind games.
Yeah.
Going back to the Chicago game last year.
Yeah.
Right? We talked about how that was a mistake and how that was going to have long-term damage. We were right. This is the equivalent of that, essentially.
Right. And that's why all of this I look at and I say, Bill, to me, I can't give another young quarterback to Bill. And the main reason it for that is because I don't have confidence in Bill to build a team around, or build an offense, I should say, around that quarterback. That's number one, right? Is like I don't have the confidence that Bill is going to build a modern offense based off of scheme, speed, separation, yak ability, like all the things that we see across the league now. This is a game that is played in space. Everything is about creating space and then having receivers that can take advantage of that space. They have one guy that can do that. It's Demario Douglas.
Yeah.
That's it. And I guess maybe a healthy Kendrick Bourne.
I would say Kendrick Bourne, too, when he was healthy. Yeah.
But Demario Douglas right now is their only guy that fits the bill of what a modern receiver should be in the modern game.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why he's their most productive guy when he gets targeted in the passing game. So I don't have any confidence that they're going to be able to build a modern NFL offense around the next guy, let alone I don't really love how he's mentally handled Mac Jones with the mind games, like you put it, where what's going to happen if, Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix or Jaden Daniels or whoever it is, plays a couple bad games or gets, has a high ankle sprain and misses a few games, and then are they going to just mess with him like they did with Mac in the Chicago game? And, the whole 9 yards of how this was handled. Mac Jones could have handled himself better in certain instances in that respect too.
Yeah.
And I don't deny that. But at the same time, one person in this situation was the adult.
Yes, exactly.
And
that's a great point.
And it was Bill. Bill is supposed to be the adult. And he handled it just as immaturely as Mac Jones did. So whether Mac is, I know a lot of people think Mac is a baby and Mac, is spoiled and Mac is all these different things.
You know what? He's a kid.
He's a kid.
And it's the job of the coaching staff to kind of, and honestly, Bill talks about this a lot, or he used to. He's not just coaching these players as football play, and you hear a lot of good coach about this, right? We're teaching them how to be men, teaching them how to be adults. Yeah. And I think that's just part of it. I think when you have a young quarterback, 21, 22, 23-year-old kid that's being given millions of dollars and is the face of an NFL franchise, that's a lot to deal with. And you have to kind of manage that. And look, should Mac have gone out, this is the one from last year, right? Should Mac have gone out texting coaches or Dana Orlovsky or whoever for like outside advice?
Right.
He shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But the bigger question is, why did he feel like he needed to? Don't create an environment where the quarterback feels like he needs to do that. That's where you start.
But I would also mention, that type of stuff happens all the time. That being so butthurt about that was so silly because
that too.
Everybody's got their confidants. Everybody's got their consigliaries. Like, I understand the resume is different, so people are going to come at me and be like,
I know exactly what you're about to say, but
why can Bill call Mike Lombardi?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
Or why can Bill call, whoever, one of his coaching buddies, right?
Brian Kelly, Chip Kelly,
sure, whoever, right? Nick Saban. Why can he call those people and say, what's your 2 cents on this, or what's your advice on that, or what do you think of this player in the draft? Why can he call those guys? But then if Mac Jones calls Steve Sarkisian and says, "Can you watch my film and tell me what I'm doing wrong?" He's Satan.
And you know what?
He's an enemy.
We probably should have seen that coming, because you know who else did that? The cameras can't see it. That guy.
Yeah.
Tom Brady. And building like that, the whole Alex Guerrero thing.
Right.
So it's not new.
All right. Well, that's where we're at. That's a nice state of the Patriots for you to buy. They have no quarterback. They're 2-8. Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Right? That's where we're at right now. With this team.
How was Germany? How was the trip?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was going to go there, but then we got into the quarterbacks and I digress.
Oh, we should clarify, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it reminded me of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people asking why last week's show is not on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we had you were
at
a dance party.
I was in the club.
No, you're at the house.
I was in the Patriots house. That is true. I was in the Patriots house. It was, it was really cool. That I was dreading it a little bit because of the flight and the travel and out of the country. Like, I'm a, this as well as anybody. I am 100% a creature of habit.
Yeah.
I have a I'm not going to say the name because I don't want Kenny in marketing get mad at me. I have a coffee every morning.
Yeah.
I have Jersey Mike's for lunch every day. Like I stick to my comfort zone. And
you're a homebody.
Wait, I am. And so is Jess. So it works out perfectly. If you take me and you drop me in a foreign country that doesn't speak English, where I can't get a Jersey Mike's number 7, I like combust on the spot. Like I just combust. But I will say this: I had a really good time in Germany. It was a good time. It was a really fun atmosphere. I can't thank the people of Germany and all of the international Patriots fans, because it wasn't just people from Germany or people from Frankfurt. There were people from the UK. There were people from all over the place. UK, Italy, Ireland, like everywhere. I can't thank all those people enough. It was so cool. Like if you were there, you would have had the same thing. We were like the Beatles over there. Like people were like waiting in line to say hi to us after the shows and things like that. It was crazy. I've never experienced that in my life, and it was really cool. It was surreal. And the brats were fantastic.
Yeah.
The schnitzel was fantastic. It was a good
What is
time.
schnitzel? It's just like breaded chicken, right?
Yeah, it's like fried chicken.
Alright.
It's like a cutlet, basically.
I get down with that.
Yeah. It was all very, very cool. The beer, didn't partake too much. That's a lie.
How
the beer was great.
How was the McDonald's?
I didn't go to McDonald's.
I saw
I
that.
didn't go to McDonald's.
I saw that. It was Tamara and Alex, right?
Yeah,
Went
I
to
didn't go to
McDonald's.
McDonald's. Deuce and Paul went to Five Guys.
Oh.
Tamara and Alex went to McDonald's. And I was like, I went in Germany, like I'm gonna go get a brat or something.
I would have
like
been
that. I'm not gonna
interested
do
to
that.
see it. I don't know that I would have I would have been interested to see what like the fast food's like over there. I would have done it once and been done with it. You're right. I would have been the
let
schnitzel
them
and the beer.
I let them tell me what it was like.
I'm not a big brats
Also,
guy, but
I'm a
schnitzel and beer would
big,
have been me.
as you could imagine, I'm a big like turkey club, chicken club
Yeah.
kind of guy. They put egg in the sandwich, which I kind of liked. It was like egg, bacon,
Like a fried egg. Like,
kind of like a breakfast sandwich meets a club.
Like they do it on burgers here.
yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, it was good.
You gonna start getting it that way now?
I don't know. We don't really do that around
Jersey
here.
Mike's gonna have to start stocking eggs for you.
Yeah, right. They're gonna have to start cracking some eggs. So that was Germany. But you can call in 855-PATS-500. We have some emails that we can get to here as well. Everything's on the table. Look, at 2-8 in the bye week, no game to talk about. The draft, next off season, anything you guys want to talk about, just give us a buzz. 855-PATS-500.
Evan
is the phone
shenanigans in
number.
Germany.
Some of it's probably not the best for air, but we can talk a little bit about that as well. I was one thing about my shenanigans in Germany. I was a little bit disappointed by the music, because they just play American music over there.
Oh, I heard for
right.
2 hours last week.
All it is like Rihanna and like, American music. Like I really wanted like, you saw Triple X as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And they go to the clubs and it's just don't.
Well, no,
like,
I'm thinking.
where's like the German house music?
What's that?
Like, where's the German guy yelling at me? Like that's what I wanted, and we only got that a couple times.
I'm thinking the other way. What is it? Is it polka music?
Oh yeah.
Like the old
school.
school.
I know what you're talking about.
Like
yeah,
you
I don't know
see
what it's
in
called. We probably just butchered that.
To another movie, Euro Trip.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when I think of like Oktoberfest, like that. Like
right. Well, this is
the accordion.
Okay, but Frankfurt, because I learned this the hard way. Frankfurt is really not Oktoberfest. Like they have their own version of Oktoberfest, but Oktoberfest happens in Munich, right?
Okay.
Like that. So Lederhosen, not a Frankfurt thing.
Okay, so this is more in another city. What I'm
right.
talking
So
about.
like
Okay.
that. I was told specifically that Lederhosen is like coming to Boston and wearing a cowboy hat.
Okay.
Right? Like it's just completely wrong. Technically, Schnitzel's from Austria too, so that's also
but isn't Frankfurt kind of near Austria? Isn't it that part of the country?
Yeah, I mean
Okay,
it's
so,
all
right,
in that area.
Yeah.
It's a little World War II history lesson for you. But that's it was fun. It was a good time. I wish the game had ended better. I that was my biggest takeaway, and then we can wrap this Germany talk here. My biggest thought on Saturday night before the game, and I actually bumped into Mike Reese in the downtown area, and we had a little chat about it as well, was it was and I texted you this, I think. It was kind of nice to be around fans that were just happy to be there and just excited for a football game, and they didn't necessarily like they knew the state of the team and they cared that they were 2-8. I'm not saying that they were just like these pom-pom waivers that didn't care that the team is where it is, but they were just so happy that the team was someplace that they could go to watch them play football. And in some respects, it pulled you out of, we're so in it as people that cover the team. And for me, it works for the team. Like I'm in it so deep. And then also we're really in the negativity too, because of where the team is at. These people were just having a good time. Smiles on their faces, happy to be there. You never would have thought that the team was 2-8. You could have told me they were 8-2, and I would have believed.
And
it.
I think you needed that.
It was a good like mental reset of like what this is. At the end of the day, it's just football, right? And at the end of the day, sports are meant to be fun. You're meant to cheer for your team and have a good time at these games. And I think a lot of us have just fallen into the doom and gloom. I had that all in my head on Saturday night, and then you get to the game, and it's the same Patriots team, and they lose the way that they lose, and it kind of brings you all back to, right, this is where we're at. But in general, I thought that was nice.
No, it is good. I mean, that's a big part of the way I look at it, right? At the end of the day, football's football. I'm enjoying the sport of it. I'm enjoying, you put two teams on the field. I don't really care if it's competition, if there's, competition there, if people are into it, if there's emotions with it, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad people got to, I'm always glad people get to experience football. So
yeah. So let's put a bow on this Colts game and never talk about it ever again. And let's do 3 up, 3 down. And then we'll take some calls and we'll take some emails and we'll talk some draft, I think, a little bit here today too. How sad is that? November's not even Thanksgiving. I'll start with 3 up, 3 down. Number 1 up for 4 weeks in a row, Alex. Christian Barmore.
Might have to remember how like the Sports Center not top 10 retired the butt fumble. We might just have to be like, Christian Barmore's good for moving on.
He's up. Right, he's up. Christian Barmore again in this game, their most impactful player, I think, on either side of the football in this one, besides maybe one of my others. But definitely their most impactful defensive player. He had 3 stuffs again. And that, I think that's, I keep saying it, but his improvement against the run has really stood out to me the most. Like, we always knew he could rush the passer. He had those really good pass rushing stats as a rookie. His ability to 2-gap, his ability to shoot gaps when they allow him to, like he did in the TFL, those types of plays have become consistent from him in the run game. He's a 3-down player now. And look, you have to rotate guys on the defensive line. No one's going to play 100% of the snaps, but he should be the equivalent of a 100% snap guy on the defensive line, like 65, 70%.
He should be your top defensive lineman, whatever that is. Like, he should be the most used in third downs, all that. No, this is the guy. When he was coming out of Alabama, remember, people were surprised he fell. He was supposed to be a first-round pick, and I think some of the concern was, you draft interior defensive lineman in the first round. Yeah. You expect a 3-down player, and I think why he fell was people were worried about him as a run defender as well as some of the injuries. He's healthy. He's developed as a run defender. This is a guy, and we'll get more into it after the season. He's going to be an extension candidate.
Agreed.
Once the season's over. That's a guy you pay because you got him. They got to figure out what they're going to get. Oh, Bentley's extended. So you got him. You got Bentley. You got Christian Gonzalez. There's one guy at each level for you to build around, and that's a really good place to start defensively. And I know Judon kind of on the defensive line, that's a guy you're building around, but he'll be entering the final year of his deal.
Yeah, 30.
He's in his 30s. He's coming off an injury. He's probably on the way. Like, you're not building, maybe for 2024, you're kind of still in the plans, but I'm saying long term. Christian Barmore can be a linchpin for your defense. We know what that position, that athletic defensive tackle position, means to the Patriots' defensive style. And even if Bill Belichick's gone, I wouldn't think the defensive style is going to change drastically, if at all.
Yeah, we'll get to that. A good question.
That's a guy you got to keep around.
With Barmore, the only thing that I wish for him is that they had a guy like Judon to actually finish some of these pressures that he's getting.
Right.
Because he's not a finisher. Like, he's not going to be somebody that's going to have, like, double-digit sacks or something like that. He's a disruptor.
Well, that's supposed to be Josh Uche.
Right. Yeah, so whether it's Uche or whether it's Judon, you just wish that there was somebody there to clean this up for him because he's constantly infecting the pocket. And they just have to have somebody that can go out there and finish. Power, with the bull rushes and the two-gap stuff, slipping around Quentin Nelson to backdoor that play on the TFL in the end of the game. Just a fantastic game for him again. He has been statistically a top 3 defensive tackle in the league for about a month and a half now. So he's playing fantastic.
I think PFF
football.
has him number 8 in the league overall, defensive interior.
All right. Who you got?
Number 1 would be Barmore,
Yeah.
and my number 2 is going to be the same number 2 it's been the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
The running backs.
Yeah.
Zeke Elliott, Ramondre Stevenson, both those guys
we
look
have
like
the same list, I think.
I mean, we watched the same game.
Yeah.
Both those guys look like they early in the season, I think that and Mondre was limited in training camp. Zeke wasn't in training camp at all. I think they've got their legs under him now. I think they're in regular season shape. I think they're ready to go. If the Patriots do want to win games here down the stretch, these guys got to be a big part of it.
Yep.
They're moving well. They're breaking tackles, all of it. I like what I'm seeing from both of them.
Absolutely. I had Ramondre Stevenson as my number 2 up. I thought that he ran the ball fantastic in this game, like vintage Ramondre in this game. When Ramondre is feeling it, and you can tell, it's always about how he finishes the runs. And I thought in this game he was running angry. He was running over guys, breaking tackles, back on the slalom slopes, right? Just kind of weaving in and out of tackles it through the line of scrimmage. So much better in terms of his decisiveness, his awareness of where things were going to come from. I thought that he was really good in this game, and I think that he's been really good for the last, let's call it 3 or 4 games. He, in terms of like yards after contact, forced missed tackles, rushing yards over expected, like he's near top 6 or 7 backs in the league for about a month now. So he's back to being one of the NFL's best ball carriers, and you have to give him some props for that. My third up, I had 2. I know it's a 10-6 game, kind of weird to have 4, but I do want to give Jelani Tavai some flowers.
He's been playing good football.
So Jelani Tavai has been one of their best players. PFF has him right now as the 6th graded linebacker in the entire, like off-ball linebacker in the entire league. A top 10 player at his position. He's been very, very good. Now, is there certain limitations to his game that, you're not going to have him covering guys 20 yards down the field and things like that? Yeah, of course. But I actually think he's pretty good in zone drops. Like, he drops pretty well quickly, diagnoses routes. The play on the Miles Bryant interception was a fantastic play to get his hand on that ball. Had a pressure in the past game when they did let him rush. Plays the run well. This is one of those guys that if you had some of those, finishers like I was talking about earlier, if you had Christian Gonzalez out there, if you had Matthew Judon out there, Jelani Tavai would be taking care of his 111th, and you would be a good defense, right?
Yeah.
If he was just kind of a starter instead of somebody that needs to go out there and make a huge impact. He's been really, really good all year. And I think that it's interesting when you look at his like PFF grades, how they've just gotten better and better and better with each season. He's under contract for next year with the Patriots. So
for like $2 million. I think.
He'll be a Patriot in 2024. I think Tavai's been really good.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, and you kind of touched on it there, last year, remember, they tried playing him off the ball. It wasn't working. They moved him in the edge, and he was good there, but that's a limited role.
Yeah.
I remember early in camp, he starts making plays in coverage, and I'm like, what is going on here? This is new. And I remember I asked him about it in camp, and like I said, is coverage something you focus on this offseason? He didn't really want to answer the question. Where he was like, I work on a lot of things, blah, blah, but it was one of those answers. I don't remember. I have to go find the full transcript of it. But he basically said yes without saying yes.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it. It's carried over. Like, he looks so much more comfortable in those situations, and he's turned himself into a 3-down off-ball player. So he deserves a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, I agree. So last one here for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go the other way on this group in a second. Run blocking. I thought this was a really good run blocking game, especially in the second half. City So on Wenu, I'll even give Cole Strange some love in this as well. They were moving the line of scrimmage on those duo schemes, the gap schemes, running right downhill at the Colts. A couple good wham plays in there, a couple of good outside zone plays. Like, this is the best I think that I've seen them block outside zone in a long, long time. They were really, really good at run blocking in this game, and I give a lot of credit that they continue to run block well, even though, and we'll get to the downs here in a second, the pass blocking was atrocious. But they were good in that respect, and they deserve credit. Do you have any more?
Yeah, this might surprise some people. Bryce Behringer.
Yep.
Was excellent in this game. 4 times for a total of 250 yards. Now, he had 2 touchbacks, and I saw a bunch of people complaining about that. And yes, normally you don't want touchbacks. It's true most of the time. And Matthew Slater talked about this after the game, so this isn't just me making excuses. When you're punting from your own 20,
yes,
you can kick a touchback.
Yeah.
That's still a 60-yard net punt.
Right.
Right, and he had a 79-yarder, and it was a touchback, so it turns into a 59-yarder.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if it's a touchback, you'll take a 59-yard punt, because the reality is if you can kick the ball that far, you don't want to outkick your coverage. And the best way to do that is to not allow a return. So I thought, sometimes you just go to the driver and you blast the ball. And you do that on a par 5 where the hole's nowhere near you, and you don't have to worry about, overhitting it or anything.
Yeah.
I'll take a touchback from the 20. I have no problem with that kick. And he's still, even with the 2 touchbacks this weekend, is 6th in the league in I-20 percentage.
Yeah.
So
he's been okay. I leave the punters to you.
So here's what I would say.
The
The first couple games the first 2 games, his first punt in each game was a shank, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Since then, he's been excellent.
Yeah.
So, all right, he's a rookie who had 2 bad plays in his first 2 games. That happens.
Right.
I am totally okay with that. We'll talk about Chad Ryland in a little bit. I think that one's a little different.
Yeah.
I think you have to be happy with it. I know people hate when I use this line, if so-and-so was their biggest problem, blah, blah, blah. If Bryce Behringer was the biggest problem for the Patriots special teams right now, they'd be the number 1 special teams unit in the league. Like, you can't ask for much more than what Bryce Behringer has done to this point, especially from a rookie. I think he's been good. I think this was another good game for him this week.
Okay, so fair enough. Moving down to the also, he almost hit the scoreboard. It was close.
I know. I got so many people tweeted at me. Thank you to all of you. I got so excited. That was like the highlight of the game for me.
It was close. Yeah, where we were sitting, the ball went behind the scoreboard. So if he had kicked it more into the middle of the field, I think it would have clanked.
He talked about that.
I think he aimed to.
It was wide. Maybe it wasn't him. Somebody said it. The scoreboard's like the one in Dallas, right? We talked about it that week, but it's narrow.
Yeah.
The scoreboard there, I think, was wider than the hashes.
Yeah.
So I do think might have been Jake Bailey that talked about that when he played there last week. I don't remember who said it, but somebody was like, "Yeah, you have to kick around it."
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was close. 3 downs. So Mac is on my downs list. I think we've beaten that dead horse enough. I don't need.
Like I said, we might have to retire Christian Barmore. We might just have to retire Mac and be like, it's
okay,
assumed.
He's a down.
Yeah. Why are you excusing Mac from the downs? Talk about him. Rewind.
Yeah, I will excuse your boy Bryce Behringer from this because you're telling me that he was fine in this game.
So I think then we're gonna have the same down here, but
special teams
minus Bryce Behringer is one of mine.
Special teams. I just have to do this for a second. The fact that this team is 30th in special teams DVOA.
30th? They were 31st last week, so they moved up. They are
30th.
Don't put them as a down, Evan. They moved up.
DVOA is as much of an indictment on this coaching staff and the way that this operation has been run this year as the quarterback. This team, Alex, got stripped OTAs in the spring because they practiced special teams too much.
They
spent too much on
too
special
many meetings.
Teams,
they didn't practice.
At it.
Too many meetings.
It is unbelievable. They have 3 special teams coaches. Name me another staff that has 2 special teams coordinators and an assistant special teams coach. They essentially have 3 special teams coordinators on this team. They have 5 players And I'm including Ty Montgomery in this because he played one freaking snap on offense last week.
Yeah, he's a special teams player at this point.
They have 5 players that are special teams only players.
Who is it? It's Slater,
Board, Schooler, Montgomery, and
Cody Davis.
Cody Davis.
Honestly, and you could include Amir Speed in there because that's what he was before he got cut.
They have 5 guys on the roster right now on a 53-man roster that are all active on game day that all cover kicks. That's it. That's their one responsibility. They have 2 special teams coordinators on staff. They have 5 guys that only cover kicks. They spend more time on special teams than any other team in the league to the point where the league punished them for it. and not to mention, they became the first team in 30 freaking years to use 2 draft picks in the same draft on specialists. And not to mention, they have the highest paid long snapper in the NFL. And I
don't think they do anymore.
They are garbage in the kicking game. Hot, piling garbage. They can't cover kickoffs. They almost gave up a kickoff touchdown. One of your special teams only guys, Ty Montgomery, he made the tackle. Good for him. They can't cover kickoffs. They can't return. They can't kick field goals. This is an absolute abomination. It's an abomination. And I can't for the life of me believe in this regime anymore when all they do is shove down our throats that special teams matters and we should care about special teams and we should care about their investment in it and this is the right thing to do. This is how you win football games. If you believe that and you're this bad in the kicking game, then how do I believe anything that comes out of your mouth? And that's where I'm at with the special teams.
That is as impassioned as I've ever seen you about special teams. I love that. I wish it was under better circumstances, but still. 4 players this year have not played a snap on offense or defense for the Patriots, only on special teams. Tyrone Wheatley, Jake Andrews is one we need to talk more about, by the way. It's not at any fault of him.
Yeah.
That's a top 150 pick.
Yeah.
We've gone over the guys that were on the board there. Tyrone Wheatley, Jake Andrews, Chris Board, and Cody Davis are the only players that have not played a snap on offense or defense. Slater and Schooler were on for that Hail Mary, remember?
Yes.
And I think to add to your point of there's this focus on it, and it's the results aren't there. It was so bad last year.
Yeah.
So,
and we were told, not to interrupt you, but we were told...
No, never apologize for talking about special teams.
...that Joe Judge was going to come back over to special teams, and this was going to help, and this was going to fix things. They might be worse.
They are worse. By a number of major metrics, they are worse.
They are worse than they were last year.
And
this guy is still employed by this team. I can't understand it.
This is what gets me. It's that it was so bad last year, and I was somebody defending the moves they made because it needed to be better.
Right.
I don't think we've talked about Chris Board once in 10 weeks of doing the show. And it's this isn't Felger and Maz where they weren't going to talk about him anyway. This is us. If he makes a play, we'll talk about it.
Right.
I don't think we've said his name once. That part to me is shocking, kind of the allocation of assets there. There's been some other things. First of all, penalties. They are second in the league in specialty. You want to hear some real bizarro world? The New England Patriots are the second most penalized special teams unit in the league. They have 12. They're tied with Dallas and Cleveland. Green Bay is 1. You know who has the least special teams penalties? The Los Angeles Chargers. That is where special teams goes to die.
Not anymore.
Apparently.
Now it's New England.
Apparently. But I just had to throw that as an aside. 12 special teams penalties, Evan. What percentage of the snap? I don't know what percentage of the snaps the penalties are, or the special teams is, but...
Well, they punt more than any other team.
But I would say you have 30 on offense, 21 on defense, 12 on special teams. I'm going to pull up this number next time you talk. I'm going to find it. The percentage of snaps that result in a penalty, that percentage feels very high on special teams. They keep running kickoffs out of the end zone.
Yeah.
They've run 6 kickoffs out of the end zone this year, Evan. Do you know how many of them they've gotten past the 25?
Can't be many.
It's 0.
Yeah, they can't.
Zero.
They can't even kick off return past the 20-yard line.
And then, no, they get past 20, the 25, the touchback line.
Sometimes they don't get past the 20.
I think they've gotten past the 20 on all but one of them, I believe. The ones that go into the end zone I'm talking
it's
about.
just all bad.
And then another one.
I'm fine with this. We can keep piling on this. This is just horrible.
The punt return.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start here.
I was going to go here too.
I have no problem philosophically.
Yeah.
The other team's backed up. You know it's a field position game. You know you need a spark.
And you know your offense can't score.
That's another way to put it.
Yeah.
You need a spark? Fine. We're going to go all out block here. We're going to just sell out for the block. I have no problem with that strategy in theory. But here's the thing. The way that works is you have to commit to it. It's a risk-reward play. You put all 11 guys at the line, and you're selling out for it. Now, one way you can counter that as a punt unit is say, all right, because it's essentially what you do at that point is you turn it into 11 on 10, and you're guaranteed a free rusher.
Right.
You're not guaranteed a free rusher when not because the returner cancels out the punter.
Right.
If you go 11 on 10, you have that. What some teams will do, and so usually the counter from the punt team is you bring the gunners in.
Yes.
And now it's 11 on 10 in the box. What some teams will do is leave the gunners outside and say, fine, come at us. But, I mean, think about it. There's no returner back. If there's 11 guys all pinched in, you're just going to throw the ball out to one of those guys and he's going to run forever.
Right.
So that's the counter. Okay. Then that's usually when you back out of it. What some teams will do is leave a guy kind of in the middle of the field short where he can run back and still get the punt even if they do kick it. What they did instead was the Colts leave the gunners out, and they put Pop Douglas and Sean Wade in essentially no man's land. They're 15 yards off the line, so they're not going to help block the punt. They're probably not going to help if there's a fake. They're not that close.
Yeah.
And neither one is in a position to run back and field the ball. And credit to the Colts punter. I mean, he gets off a hell of a kick there.
Yeah.
And part of what you're assuming is, all right, if we're going 11 on 10, he's going to quick kick it. He's not going to get as much leg. So those guys get paid too. There is some of that in here, but. And Bill and Slater both said after the game the play didn't go the way it was supposed to go.
Shocker. That wasn't the way it was supposed to go.
I feel like Douglas is supposed to peel back and go get the ball, but like you can't. You had two players. You were playing 11 on 9.
Yes.
You had two players that had however that play was going to play out. You had two players that were not in position to do anything.
Yes.
You can't have that. Again, go 11 on 10 all you want. I would have loved an 11 on 10 look there. And if he gets off a hell of a punt against an 11-man rush, he gets off a hell of a punt against an 11-man rush. That happens, you tip your cap.
Yes.
You can't sell all out for the block and then not try to block the kick.
So, after the game, I spoke to a few of the special teams guys, Slater, and they told me that what they saw on film was that if they put 9 guys across the Colts, that they would bring one of the gunners in.
Right.
And when they brought one of the gunners in, that would get them the numbers advantage if it was man-on-man blocking, like you just broke down. What happened is they left the gunners out, and then they just zone blocked inside out. So basically all the Colts did was said, cute, nice.
They called the bluff.
Nice punt block you guys got here. You know, they made a check at the line of scrimmage to go from man blocking to zone blocking to block inside out so that they could keep the punter clean. And they blocked it, and that was that. A 70-yard punt. It was 69 yards.
And that's where, again, so when they see that, when the gunners don't come in, you got to check out of that, and somebody else goes out, and I believe Pop Douglas was on the left.
Yeah.
Somebody else goes out, covers that left gunner, Pop Douglas goes back. You say, all right, they didn't take the bait, reset, go. It's just a regular punt return at this point, whatever you want to call that. Like, you got to check out of that at that point.
Just brutal. They're just brutal across the board in special teams. And when you're this type of team, when your offense isn't going to score 30 a game and your defense is playing without 2 of its best players, you have to find ways to win games on the margins. And at this point, they are actively losing games because of special teams.
And it's again where, I don't hate the idea, but you have to be able to execute it.
And this is really, like, special teams, I think, for us, we try to talk special teams, and I tee you up to talk special teams, but it's there's a lot of minutia to it that people, frankly, even me, don't goes over your head. But at the same time, this has been tangible the last 2 weeks. They imploded at the end of the Commanders game with all the penalties on special teams and some of the things that happened in the fourth quarter of that Washington game. And then they imploded again in this game. They missed 2 field goals. It was a 10-6 game. Yeah. Right? So these are things that are just actively losing you games.
And again, special teams is at its core field position.
Yes.
Special teams is all about...
They always say the number one priority is the ball, right? Like you have to come away from the play with the football. That's priority number one. And then priority number 2 is obviously controlling field position.
Yeah. When you're almost leading the league in penalties, special teams penalties. What penalties are at their core? It's a field position.
Yeah.
When you get penalized in the NFL, they don't take points off the board. You lose field position. That's the next most valuable thing. When the biggest field position phase of the game is costing you field position, it's a lot to overcome. And it's complementary football like Bill talks about. Like people in the chat, why are they talking so much about a punt return? That's a major play in the game.
Absolutely.
Because of how it flipped the field and it changed the game script.
Right, because if you go, let's just say you just go normal return there, they're kicking the ball out of their own end zone. You're thinking that at the worst, you're probably going to get it at like your own 40.
You should be around the 50 at the very least. He's a good punter. I'm blanking on the last name. Sanchez. Sanchez is a good punter. Like he's going to get one off, but you should be around midfield.
But you're talking about a close to, a shorter field.
You're talking about, you handle it like a normal return. I think you're probably talking about a 20 to 25 yard swing. You're talking about a quarter of the field.
And when you're dealing with this offense, that's a big deal. All right. Well, I digress on the special teams. I can't. I know we're spending a lot of time on it, and I get that, but it's part of the show and it's part of the game. And I think the bigger thing that I wanted to hammer home with it is just it's such an indictment on the whole program. This is the whole program, right? Like Larry Izzo, Matthew Slater, like this is what it was all about. Tough teams cover kicks. The T-shirt that goes around the Fakakta locker room all the time. This is what this team is about. This is what this team has been about for 25 years. And these things start to unravel, then what's left? What's left? If they can't cover kicks anymore, and they can't control the game, and they can't control that phase of the game, then what's left? Last down, pass protection across the board. Pass protection across the board in the first half was absolutely atrocious. Probably as bad as it's been all year. It officially ended with a 44% pressure rate on Mac Jones. I think that's being a little bit generous to the protection. So I'm gonna read out, Alex, the pressures allowed by each player. Here, 1 second.
Okay.
Of course, I pulled it up and then my phone crapped out. Pressures allowed by each player on the offensive line, because each player on the offensive line was responsible for at least 2 pressures in this game. So Connor McDermott I had down for 3. Cole Strange I had down for 6. David Andrews I had down for 2. City So I had down for 5. Michael Onwenu I had down for 2. They had 5 sacks in the first half. Really, none of them were super competitive. I think there was one play where you maybe thought that Mac could have gotten the ball out, but in general, none of it was really that competitive. This was as bad as they've been. Like, put this up right there with the Dallas and New Orleans game in pass protection. It was that bad. And when you look at this Colts front, outside of DeForest Buckner, it's not really that great of a front. Like, and DeForest Buckner is a great player, don't get me wrong. But they came into this game like middle of the pack in pressure rate. Like this isn't like one of those teams like the Eagles that are just have like 6 guys that can come after you in waves. This is a pretty modest pass rush. They don't blitz very much either under Gus Bradley. This was a atrocious pass blocking game. And I give the Colts some credit. They knew that Adrian Clem wasn't there. And I think that they came after the Patriots early on in this game with some schemed rushes. I mentioned, A-gap pressure, some stunts, some different blitzes, 5-man rushes, if you want to call those blitzes. So they did some things to spice it up a little bit. But just in general, the pass protection has to be a lot better than this. A lot better. And I give City So a little bit of a break because this was his... since week 1, he's been pretty solid in pass protection. This was a down game for him in that regard. This is a week-to-week occurrence with Cole Strange. We're at the point now with Cole Strange that you really need to start to question whether or not he can pass protect it at an NFL level. And he was good in the run blocking game this game. I know PFF gave him pretty high marks in the run game. But in the league now, in 2023, if you can't pass protect, you can't play offensive line. Like that, it doesn't matter how good of a run blocker you are. It's a passing league, and you have to be able to pass protect. DeForest Buckner took his lunch money for 2 years in a row. It's the same thing every single week with Cole Strange. He can't pass protect in the league right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been good.
Yeah.
It hasn't been good across the board. It wasn't good across the board. They're going to have to figure something out at left tackle if Trent Brown's out. I wonder if that's why Riley Reif's back at practice, because he's probably their best left tackle if Trent Brown's not an option.
Connor McDermott,
he's not a left tackle. He's not a left tackle.
He's not. And I'll give Connor McDermott this. I think this is where it comes down to some people probably have higher pressure rates. The pressure rate that I took was from Next Gen. PFF had it about 41%. Some people are going to have it at different levels. I think with Connor McDermott, it really depends on how you view Connor McDermott.
Yeah.
Because he gets beat around his edge quite a bit, but sometimes it's just enough that Mac is up in the pocket enough that it's not. It's probably a lost block, but it might not necessarily be a
when
hurt.
you have a quarterback that's as uncomfortable in the pocket right now as Mac Jones. I don't know that you can afford that. So
yeah, so I had him with 3 this week. I had him with, I think, 3 or 4 last week, and I know Bedard had him with like 7, right? So it all depends on how you grade the hurries. But it hasn't been pretty. But my point with Connor McDermott, he has at least made the pass rusher more times than not go the long way home. Like he's at least making him run the arc and getting into him to about 8 or 9 yards, and at least giving them a speed bump on the way to Mac Jones. But the interior pressure in this game was relentless.
Yeah, it was. My last down, the defensive coaching staff, and it's one thing, and it's a thing that bugs me, and I text you about this during the game, Evan, and people know I think Miles Bryant gets too much heat.
Yeah.
I think Miles Bryant is a good player if you ask him to do the right things. The interception's a great example. They put him in the back of the defense, read and react. That's what he's great at. Read and react, go make a play on the football. What do I always say is the thing Miles Bryant should not do? Cover fast receivers. They went halfway around the world to put Miles Bryant on Isaiah McKenzie again. I mean, and look, he didn't have they switched out of it pretty quick, but
in this case,
it was just like,
I just don't know what else you do because you're not. J.C. Jackson's not there.
Right.
Jack Jones isn't playing. So Sean Wade and Jonathan Jones are your 2 primary corners on the outside. So I guess you could have moved Jonathan Jones inside, but then you're playing Miles Bryant on the outside. Like where is he going?
Jalen Mills. Like Jalen Mills is playing less than 30% of their snaps.
He's been bad too.
Okay, but who hasn't?
Yeah.
Right. Or Alex Austin, I don't know, try something different. Like, I know for a fact that doesn't work. We all know for a fact that doesn't work. And they switched out of it later in the game and they went zone heavy, which kind of made sense.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done, gone zone heavy. By the way, I found those percentages for the penalties.
Okay.
Special teams is actually not their most penalized unit by percentage. So defense is the least, 3% flat. 3% of their defensive players result in a penalty. I don't know what the league, I don't have the full league numbers, but that feels about right. Special teams is 4.5% of your special teams plays are ending in a penalty right now. This is per Pro Football Reference. I use their snap counts. Offense is 4.8%.
All right, so it almost is. The fact that it is up there is all we need to know. All right, let's get to the phones and the emails here. Mauricio is in Mexico. What's up, Mauricio?
Hey, guys. Big fan of the show.
Thank you.
For over 3 years now. I have 2 questions. The first one being that Alex mentioned yesterday in his podcast that he would take out instead of Marvin Harrison Jr.
You would.
Saying that he has Joe Thomas type of talent. And I wanted to see your thoughts, Evan, on this take from Alex. And the next question is if you think that Christian Gonzalez will be able to come back and be his former self after the injury, or if there's going to be a slight decrease on his performance. Thank you.
Thanks, Mauricio. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it.
All right. Let me clarify that take.
Go ahead. Yeah. You hate the shiny new toys. That's what it is.
If it's this coaching staff back,
yes,
do you put it past them to mess up even Marvin Harrison Jr.?
That's a fair take, I guess.
That's what the take was, basically.
I guess that's
that, and then
they have better chance of Joe Alt being a Hall of Fame tackle than Marvin Harrison being a Hall of Fame receiver. For
It was that.
I kind of agree with that.
And then I was basically also, I think it got twisted. I was basically just saying the drop from Joe Alt to the day 2 tackles is more extreme than the drop from Marvin Harrison to the day 2 receivers.
Okay, I don't know if I agree with that part because I think Marvin Harrison is literally the freakiest freak I've ever seen.
There's a lot of good receivers in this draft, Evan.
There might be, but I have not seen somebody that with that kind of body control with that kind of size.
All right.
It's like Calvin Johnson level stuff. Like he can, the way he gets in and out of breaks at like 6'3", 6'4" is just absurd. I mean, he looks like he ran that route last week out of the slot, that little slant that he caught for a touchdown. It looks like he's a slot receiver, but he's like 6'3".
No, he's excellent. But look, I've heard some offensive line people compare Joe Alt to Joe Thomas,
he's bigger than Joe Thomas. Though.
Calvin Johnson and Joe Thomas, you're talking about probably the two best players at their position in their era. It was more about, that take was more about the guys that come next. Like, there's really very little tackle depth in this class. Very little.
Yeah.
You miss
and the free agent class is
agent class is bad. So it's kind of, is Marvin Harrison, and this is something that I don't totally have the answer to yet.
Yeah.
Is Marvin Harrison good enough that let's say, and this is going with what we think is true right now. They're not going to bring back Trent Brown. They're not going to re-sign Mike Onwenu. Is Marvin Harrison good enough that you're willing to go forward with whatever that tackle group would look like?
I think that's fair. I think that if you're a Patriots fan, and if the way I look at it is that we have to be realistic about the fact that this is probably not going to all get done in one offseason.
And that was kind of my point. I think you can take Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
And there is an argument to take him. You have to understand it is going to be really ugly. And what I worry about is, well, I guess they're not taking a young quarterback in that situation.
Well, they might be in the second round.
But at that point, I'm saying the guy you take in the second round, do not play him. Do not play him as a rookie. Do not subject him to whatever that offensive line would be.
That's fair. I think the worry that you have with Marvin Harrison is kind of, he's a better player than Garrett Wilson. Yeah. But like Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson is like a waste, right? Like Garrett, poor guy, is like wide open the entire game, and Zach Wilson can't get him the ball. And I think that's what you worry about if you take Marvin Harrison, you have no pass protection, and let's say it's Mac Jones back at quarterback, is that Marvin Harrison, I can pull up the All-22 and show you, the 10 times a game Marvin Harrison gets open, but if they don't have somebody that can feed him the football, then what good is it, right? And that's always the argument. I think a lot of teams, Eagles, San Francisco, Detroit, some of these teams that have become kind of the darlings of the NFL have definitely built inside out. They've stuck to that.
The Lions went Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase.
Right.
The Dolphins added Teron Armstead before they added Tyreek Hill.
It was the same offseason with Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead.
Okay.
But in general, a lot of those, the Dolphins I think are different because the Dolphins just went out and like threw money at the problem, which the Patriots could technically do too.
Yeah. But are those players available? Like Teron Armstead's not available this offseason.
The teams that have done it like rebuilt in sort of the long-term way. I know the Eagles don't exactly fit this because they made the Super Bowl and won with Foles, but in general, the Eagles have had a great offensive line this entire time. They built, Lane Johnson, Mailata, Jason Kelsey, like those guys have been there for a minute, and they have a great offensive line. Detroit, like you mentioned, drafted Penei Sewell. They've had a great offensive line, and the 49ers have a great offensive line. So in some ways, you can make that argument that the line should come first.
Right.
And the teams that that have done well have done that, but there's also the flip side, and that's the Bengals. And the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase, and they neglected the line for a little bit.
They already had Joe Burrow. And that's ultimately what this comes down to. I would take a quarterback over. If Drake May's there, I'm taking Drake May over either.
Correct. I am with you on that.
Yeah, that's it. It was just like everybody's acting like, and I get it. He's the consensus 1-1. I do understand that.
Yeah.
There should be a debate about Marvin Harrison versus Joe Alt. And maybe the debate comes up Marvin Harrison. Very good chance it does. But once we get more into this thing and we've studied more of the depth players on both positions, it is a conversation. I don't think it's something to blow off. I think it's a conversation worth having.
So let me ask you this, and then I don't want, we're going to have plenty of time to deliberate this. Let's say they bring back basically the same line that they have now, just assuming that Trent Brown is at left tackle instead of Connor McDermott. But it's Onwenu at right tackle, Sal, Andrew, Strange, Trent Brown. You still taking Joe Alt?
No. I don't think there's a chance Trent Brown's coming back, personally. And I'm operating that. No, if you have this line again, so basically Trent Brown's going to be the bridge tackle for like the 4th year in a row is what you're telling me.
The bridge that never
the
ends.
longest bridge, right? The bridge to nowhere.
Yeah.
If Trent Brown and Michael Onwenu are back, sprint up with the card for Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just don't think that's happening.
Okay, cool. All right. Todd is in North Carolina. What's up, Todd?
Guys, I think that we might need some other areas, not just receiver and that, like you said, the O-line, but our running backs are not very young, and I think Mr. Perillo is the one that says, once you've had a running back for 4 years, 5 years, that wear is pretty much going to start showing in heavily. So I love our current guys. In fact, I've been very impressed with Zeke, but I think we also need a running back. There's just so many things that we need. I find it hard to try to encapsulate everything.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Todd. Running backs you can do on your own time. No offense, Todd.
Forgive me for this. No, I'm doing it on your time right now. Forgive me for this. They need 2 running backs. They need the next guy for Ramondre because they're not going to pay him.
You can take him in the 6th
and they need a pass catching back. They can, but I'm going to tell you this. Don't go to that next caller. You're going to listen to this.
No.
They are going to love Blake Corum.
I knew you were going to say that.
They are going.
If they take a running back in the top 100, I will literally riot.
Don't rule it out.
I will riot.
We don't know who's going to be making the pick. We don't know who's going to be making the pick.
They need 2 things out of running back. Okay, both of them can be had on day 3. They need a 3rd down back,
and they can get that on day 3.
And they might even be able to get it in free agency, right? Like I don't know. I haven't looked at the free agent.
Yeah, I've wanted them to sign Jerick McKinnon for a while.
Whether it's Jet McKinnon or somebody like that,
yeah.
They might be able to fill that spot in free agency.
Michael Carter,
and then. You missed on Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris.
Yeah.
Take another swing on one of those types
well,
of guys.
Ramondre is going to be entering a contract year. You need the next guy for Ramondre. So maybe that's...
We have so much evidence, and I don't mean to go on this whole rant about the running backs thing, but we have so much evidence that you can just... They're a dime a dozen. Just turn them out.
They took Ramondre in the 4th round. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so that's Donovan Edwards, Audric Estime, and I'd like those guys.
I said top 100. Not a single running back pick in the top 100.
They are going, assuming it's this group making the pick. You can like it, you cannot like it.
I won't like it.
He runs the ball, he catches the ball, he blocks. He's a team captain.
It won't
Michigan.
move the needle.
They love them.
They've had a top 10 running back in the league 2 years in a row, and where has it gotten them?
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but you're going to have to watch him. We're going to have to talk about him.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do, because we have to talk about the guys they might take. He is very much a guy they might draft, Evan. The fact you're so annoyed, I'm right.
I know you're right, but it's bad business. It's bad business. What do you want me to tell you?
So
it's bad.
We talk about all the picks they made that were bad business. Why is Blake Corum any different?
It's not any different, but the point is...
Who was the guy last year that I just drove you up a wall about? But we had to talk about him. Who was it?
Probably Bijan Robinson.
No, it was... Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, which happened, by the way. Which
happened, by the way, and look at what the Lions have done with him.
He's been nasty. He's been nasty the last few weeks. What are you talking about?
Yeah, last couple weeks.
They got him going now. It took them too long. They got him going. He won them single-handedly. Who was it? The Bears or whoever they played the other week.
The difference is that the Lions have less holes.
And that's fair. And again, I'm not defending the pick, but there's a real chance that if it's the same group, they are going to like Blake Corum.
I hate it, and I hate this part about you. Get over it. Running backs
you
don't
hate
matter.
That I wanted us to do our job.
Matter.
It is
they
our
don't
job.
Move the needle.
It is our job
There's
to
one
talk
running
about
back in the league that matters, and it's Christian McCaffrey, and he's not on your team. Get over it.
Bijan might matter. Bijan
doesn't matter. What has it done to the Falcons?
Nothing, because they don't give him the ball.
And where are they?
If they gave him the ball, he doesn't matter because they don't use him. Or he doesn't matter because they don't use him.
What do you mean?
If it's a guy the Patriots might take, we have to talk about him. That's just what our job is.
I'm not.
You are going to have to watch Blake Corum.
I'm going to tell you in March that I want to throw up every single time you bring up Blake Corum because it makes no sense in the world for this team to be drafting running backs. What makes sense for this team?
Did it make sense for them to draft Cole Strange?
But that's different. That's different.
How?
It's different because that one that one we didn't even consider because it was so stupid.
We did consider it. I said it to you that year, and we had this exact same conversation. You just came very close, by the way, to admitting the Cole Strange pick was good. I had you. I had you there.
I admit that we did talk about guards, and it was about the kid from BC who I'm banking on his
Zion Johnson.
Zion Johnson.
We had the
who is freaking good and would have been better than Cole Strange.
We had the exact same conversation 2 years ago about guards. We had it last year about Jahmyr Gibbs. There is a chance they are going to do this, so we have to talk about it.
Okay. All right.
That's what the people tune in for, is that. So you got to give the people what they want.
It is ridiculous that this team, what they should do at running back is obviously Ramondre's under contract. He's coming back. I would re-sign Zeke. I would. I think
that's a real conversation. I think that's a good point.
I think he's actually, we were around him a decent amount. He's been a pretty good guy in the locker room, I think, too. Yeah. I would re-sign Zeke to be back up to Ramondre. I would find a third down running back, and I would throw a 7th round pick at a bell cow.
I'd go 4th or 5th. I'd go 4th or 5th. On Zeke, though.
Because Isaiah Pacheco was a 1st round pick.
I wanted Pacheco. That was my guy. On Zeke.
Yeah.
He might have a market. I don't know that you're getting him back for nothing. He, I think, might get some interest. So
that's fair.
Even if you want to resign him, there's going to be other teams I think that want to sign him. I don't think it's a slam dunk he comes back.
All right, Rashad is in Baltimore. What's up, Rashad? Uh-oh, we got line 3 syndrome. What's up, Rashad?
All right. So you guys were talking about earlier, like core players. So I was thinking earlier, who do we have as playmakers? The first guy I already thought of is DeMario. I mean, he's what we thought Tyquan maybe could have been, but I don't even think Tyquan can get anywhere near Douglas the way he plays. And then you got Mondre. He makes plays. I would keep him. I'm with Evan. I don't think we should be thinking about running back. I think we solid with running back. But I think that's it for offense. Who else makes plays on offense? Nobody. So then I go to defense. Gonzo, he's gone, but I think we can all say he's probably going to be a playmaker. I mean, then after that, Barmore been looking good, but a defensive tackle, he's not going to be an Aaron Donald. So, I mean, then after that, it's who else do we have? I can't think of. I mean, the corners. I mean, I heard somebody talking about Miles Bryant the other day, but Miles Bryant, no, I'm not sold on Miles Bryant. So I just feel it's got to be a total rehaul of the talent. It has to be. I mean, with the coaches, we know that, but with the talent, it needs to be a total overhaul of talent. So, I mean, can you think of any more playmakers that we have?
Yeah, and thanks for the call, Rashad. I think we both agree with you in that this team is deprived of star power, playmakers, game-changing talent, whatever you want to call it. The one other name, and I've been, I wrote something. You're gonna love it. It's all next-gen stats. The math. It's all over the place in there. You should read it. You really are gonna enjoy that.
Is that your revenge for that whole Blake Corum thing?
100%. And I'm gonna make you read it just like you made me sit through that.
You're gonna be sitting through a lot more.
One of the bigger points that I wanted to highlight was how they've changed Kyle Duggar's role this season. We've talked about this on the show, but I actually was able to tangibly prove it with numbers. So this year, this is according to Next Gen, Kyle Duggar is lining up on average 7.5 yards off the ball.
Okay.
Last year it was 5.5.
That I have no problem with that number. That's a tangible number.
So those two numbers, that would obviously Kyle Duggar is playing further back in the defense.
Right.
That's all it's saying.
Did you break it down week to week?
I haven't but I looked at it and it was about steady. I
feel like they've been playing him less deep, more in the box the last couple weeks.
I think that maybe there's some truth to that, but the numbers didn't necessarily bear it out. It was a difference of a couple percentage points, in tenths of percentage points. Not.
Okay.
But the point is that I think Kyle Duggar is a playmaker. I think he proved that last year. But in order for him to be a playmaker, they have to put him back in his natural position. Right. So they're going to add, as I was doing this and as I was writing this yesterday, I added another spot to the list of needs, and that's free safety, which if they can get a true center fielder to play in the middle of the field again, like a la Devin McCourty, then they can move Kyle Duggar back to the line of scrimmage, and I think that gives you another playmaker on defense.
Or, I mean, they just have Jabril Peppers play there, and they just let Kyle Duggar go.
I think ideally, they love to play a lot of three safety.
Yeah. Oh, you could have both of them.
I would like to have both of those guys close to the line of scrimmage.
So, real quick here.
Yes.
Kyle Duggar's free safeties, according to PFF, his free safety snaps by game: 21, 25, 22, 18, 20, 32, 23, 21, 17, 19. So it had declined. His free safety snaps had declined 4 weeks in a row until last week. They went up 2, but it's still under 20. Last 2 are the only 2 weeks he's been under 20. Box safety snaps: 23, 15, 24, 34, 26, 24, 25, 38, 40, 28. So
he says I hate math. He hates math.
No, I don't like the hypothetical. Whatever. They started playing him more in the box the last 2 weeks, and then it switched again last week.
Right.
Where he was playing more free safety.
He's lining up farther away from the line of scrimmage. That was it was a cool stat that they were able to tangibly prove that. Free safety snaps this year, over 30% at free safety.
Yeah.
I think it's like 32%.
218.
Last year it was only 10%. Right? So he's clearly playing a different role. And I think that if you're the Patriots...
He's already played more than double the free safety snaps this year than he did all of last year.
Right. So if you're the Patriots, it's easy. I think what the easy decision is, I still think Kyle Duggar is a really good football player. I'm re-signing Kyle Duggar. I'm finding a real free safety, and I'm moving Kyle Duggar back to his natural position, and I think he'll look like the guy he did in 2022. And that gives you another playmaker. So then you go into next year with sort of your building blocks on defense of Barmore, Bentley, Duggar, Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I think you could do a lot worse than that.
And I'll put Peppers in there.
In Peppers, sure. Peppers, maybe Keon White takes that next step too. I'm not ready to put him there, but maybe he takes the next step. Maybe you do get one more year out of Matthew Judon.
So are you writing off Marte Mapu?
I'm not writing him off. I guess I just don't know where his path is at this point because they won't play him at linebacker.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of people are like, oh, you're so excited about him in camp. What happened? In camp, he was playing all these different positions. They're using him all over the place, and it's just not happening.
Yeah,
he's not playing the same role
so
now.
Maybe
he did
he's
in camp.
one of those guys that if they get a natural free safety, he plays more of like a slot box type of safety role and eventually takes over that spot for, I would think, Jabril Peppers if you're going to re-sign Kyle Duggar long term. All right, let's get back to the phones. Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
I don't know what we're yelling about. So you guys kind of just went over a little bit what I was going to ask, but is there I got a couple questions, but is there a world where they re-sign Kyle Duggar and the next regime, whoever comes in, actually uses Marty Mapu as a linebacker? And Evan, I don't know if you'd be able to answer this because I don't know if you looked at any of the draft prospects yet. But have either of you guys looked at Roman Wilson from Michigan, wide receiver?
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Patty. And I wanted to bring this up, not Roman Wilson.
I texted you about Roman Wilson like the other day.
Yeah. No, I've seen some highlights. He's an interesting player.
I like him. I like him. I do. I think he's a good player.
So we had a couple questions about this as well, and it's kind of about Gerard Mayo's future in all of this.
Yeah.
The emailer asked about him potentially moving to like head of football ops, which I don't think that that's really what the plan is with Gerard Mayo. I think that for Mayo to pull to pull like a super Brad Stevens, because he's not even going from head coach to GM, he's going from assistant to GM.
Right.
I think that we're still, maybe that's in his future 10 years from now if he's tired of coaching. But I think at this point that's not really where we're at. I am of the belief that regardless of who the head coach is, and the emailer asks, I thought Patty kind of about Marty Mapu, because I think that Gerard would view things a little bit more modern than Bill would. And I think that is a potential part of that, like a tangible part of that could be Marty Mapu playing more at the second level of the defense. This emailer talks about the offensive-minded head coach.
Yeah.
And the way I feel about it is that I still want them to hire the best guy and not pigeonhole themselves into offense, defense, whatever. But either way, I look at it and I really feel strongly that I would like to keep the defensive system in place.
Yeah.
And I think that teams that successfully turn it over, for the most part, successfully do it by keeping at least one side of the ball consistent. I would like, whether he's the head coach or he's the defensive coordinator, I would keep Gerard around to run the defense. Either way.
Yeah. Oh, 100% agree. We were talking about this yesterday. They have a good, the defense isn't necessarily bad because of a lack of talent. Or right now, there's injuries.
Yeah.
This defense looks a lot different if you have Christian Gonzalez and you have Matthew Judon.
I mean, they're 13th in DVOA right now.
Yeah, they're still good.
And they're 12th in weighted DVOA. So that puts more emphasis on games that have happened recently.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes the first month of the season out when they had everybody.
Right.
So they're still a middle-of-the-pack defense at worst. And that's without two of their best players.
Right, and pretty much everybody's back. It's just Duggar's the only guy that, the only big-time player. Look, they're going to need another corner because Jack Jones is gone now, but the defense doesn't need that much work. The defense, you can get back to a top 10 unit, I think, in one offseason, even still needing to address everything you need to address on offense.
Yeah, I agree.
You need a free safety. You need a third boundary corner, like a Jason McCourty kind of guy.
Maybe it's Sean Wade.
Maybe it is. And then you need another
pass.
You need to replace Josh Uche. You need another, but you don't need an elite. You just need a secondary guy, and maybe that's Keon White.
Yeah.
So
if we assume that Judon is going to be back and is going to be Judon, which it's a pec injury.
It's a pec injury. I think he'll be okay. So
then I think that they definitely need to find a way. They're right now
you're making moves on the margins. You're not safety's the only position I would use a premium asset, and that doesn't mean first round pick, but top 100 pick or one of your highest paid players in free agency.
Nope.
Let's say they go
top 100 picks on defense.
If it's a safety, I would. If it a third round safety, I can do.
There's so many. For example, I think he moved last offseason. Juan Thornhill.
Yeah.
Jesse Bates. I know he got paid a lot.
Well, Jesse Bates would be a premium asset. You're paying that's what a premium asset is.
Okay, but I would be okay with paying one of those guys.
Okay.
I would not be okay with using a draft.
All right, fair enough.
Because if you know that you're getting a Jesse Bates level player, then that's a good
well.
thing.
I want them to add a veteran free safety to begin with because it's a very cerebral role. I'd like a guy that's seen a lot of football. So I wouldn't necessarily. I might draft a guy there later as a project, but no, I want them. I'd call, and I know he hasn't played a ton in Buffalo, but I don't think Buffalo's making a ton of good decisions right now.
Yeah.
I'd call Taylor Rapp again. He's going to be a free agent. They met with him last year.
You might be able to get Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer.
All right. Well, I would do that. Well, those guys are the watch. Real quick on Roman Wilson.
Yeah.
I pulled up his scouting report from Pro Football Network just to get his height and weight, but I just want to read you the first line, Evan.
Oh, boy.
Elite athleticism that separates play to play.
But, elite athleticism in what sense?
He's just a really well-rounded athlete.
Because,
he was a track and field star, that kind of guy.
Okay, but, DK Metcalf is an elite athlete. But DK Metcalf plays receiver a lot differently than Tyreek Hill does.
So
you know what I'm saying?
He's Roman Wilson 6'1", 192.
Okay.
I don't think he's Tyreek Hill. All right, so here they have he did the combine test coming out of high school.
Yeah.
4.37 40, 37-inch vertical, 4.09 shuttle.
But I'm not as concerned about what I mean is how does he win? What is his playing style and how does he win?
He separates. No, he's a really high level route runner.
Okay. All right. I worry about guys. I worry about guys from those offenses, like Michigan,
and that's fair
because they don't throw the ball a lot, right? And he's playing on an all-star team.
He's flexible. He's flexible. He's got good balance. Like that. Who was why am I blanking on the 7th round receiver that came out of Michigan last year?
Oh yeah, I know.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
He's a better version of. It's the same. He's the same kind of player. He's just much better.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll allow it.
You're going to like him. When you watch him, you're going to like him. I know it's not going to be for a couple months, unfortunately.
You know that I'm only going to like Marvin Harrison Jr. It's going to be very...
It's going to be very annoying that you're not going to... If you like him more than Drake May, we're going to have a problem.
I will say this. I do really like the kid from Texas, Worthy.
Worthy. I like
Yeah.
Worthy. How about the other kid, A.D. Mitchell?
I haven't watched him as much,
Okay.
but Worthy reminds me like a little bit of Zay Flowers, and you know how much
Yeah,
I
no,
love
that's
Zay
it. That's
Flowers. He's bigger than Zay Flowers.
Ronnie
though,
Bell is the guy from Michigan.
Yeah, Ronnie Bell. I think he's bigger than
He's
Zay
not
Flowers.
that much bigger than Zay Flowers.
I think he is. Zay was like Demario Douglas size, like 5'8", 180.
I like Worthy too. 6'1", 172.
Yeah, so much
So he's
bigger.
taller, but he's not. I mean, he's a
There's
stick.
a big difference between 5'8" and 6'1".
But
Trust me.
170.
Trust me, there's
yes,
a big difference.
But 172 is 172. He's even thinner. He's even more of a rail.
I know, but like the height matters. The
No, that's
radius,
fair.
all
That's
those kind
fair.
of stuff.
That's fair.
All right, Tim is in Providence. What's up, Tim?
Hey guys,
Hey.
how you doing?
Good.
So I think my sort of confirmation that I didn't want Bill back in New England was the trade deadline. And I know I brought this up before, but I don't see him paying Kyle Duggar $11 million a year. I just don't see him doing it. So why keep him? If you can get draft capital, like he's a good player, but their safety is not the most important position on the field. So I don't know.
So thanks for
Like that kind of mentality. No.
I get it, Tim. Your line is breaking up a little bit, so I'm just going to fill in the blanks here. So the trade deadline and the fact that they didn't sell at the trade deadline, and they had some assets like Kyle Duggar, like Josh Uche, that I understand Tim's point that if they're not going to pay these guys, why didn't they trade them? I think the obvious answer to that is maybe they are planning on paying those guys, right? Like that would be the shortest answer.
Yeah.
But, and this is just a theory. This is just me talking. Dove, don't come for me here.
He got Curran yesterday.
I think that there's a chance that they didn't want Bill making any decisions. To the point where we don't want you making a trade like that because you're determining the return. You're determining how it goes down, right? Like, I think there's a chance that they just said, play it out. Just play out the rest of the season, and we'll allow Macro or whoever the next general manager is of the Patriots make the decision of whether or not to re-sign a guy like Kyle Duggar. If you look at the books for 2024, it's empty, right? The cupboard is bare.
It's like 46 players, I think.
I really think that they didn't want to touch next year.
On re-signing, yes. And I said this at the deadline. I said, if they bring back a couple of these guys, I'm okay with. If they bring back Onwenu and Duggar, yeah, obviously I'm okay with them not trading them because they should have re-signed those guys all along.
Yeah.
I am with them on the point of Josh Uche, though. Josh Uche should have been dealt, and that's an indictment on Bill. That's a guy they're not going to re-sign. That's a guy I think they know they're not going to re-sign.
Not according to Josh Uche.
Well, now they're talking to him. I wonder why. He's playing poorly.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden his price has come down.
That's fair.
That's a guy that should have been moved.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just wonder if they just said, don't do anything. Like, we just don't want you dabbling in anything. Because, frankly, like, do you trust it? Like, do you trust them to get the best return for Josh Uche?
Any return is better than him leaving at the end of the year.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. No, yeah, it is. What are they keeping him for? What are they keeping him for the rest of the year for? They're not going to get a comp pick. They shouldn't. Well, I guess they could. They shouldn't because they should be signing people this offseason.
Right, but if you trade him, then there's no he's not coming back next year. And if you,
I don't think he's coming back anyway.
Well, maybe the next regime feels differently.
Maybe. All right, I guess.
The point is, I think that they didn't want people to make decisions on.
I get what you're saying. We don't know unless we're in the room. I guess is your point. I would have just said I don't think that's. You can go get. I don't think Josh Uche is a guy that's irreplaceable. If you trade him, you can go get a player that does that.
I agree with that.
And you're going to have to pay that player one way or the other. It's not like he was under contract long term and you're getting rid of him.
I agree with that. All right, Will is in Florida. What's up, Will?
Hey, guys. Was wondering if maybe one of you guys know something that I don't, because every time I hear you guys talk about the draft or players or anything, you always talk about this new regime as if you know that Bill Belichick isn't going to be there. Like, has that been set in stone? Because I think Bill Belichick is going to be our coach. And I'll go as far as to say I want Bill Belichick to stay.
Okay.
I was listening to a caller yesterday, and you just kind of blew him off, saying Bill had nothing to do with our 20-year run.
Oh, okay. Well, that we were kidding around about that, Will.
Oh, okay.
I'm curious. Like, what's your case for Bill sticking around? Like, I'm curious.
My case is plain and simple. It's crystal clear. Give Bill a quarterback, and our run continues. I have been standing on this corner screaming, Mac sucks, and no one's heard me. You're finally coming around. I'm glad, because you were on the it's everything but Mac streak for a while. So I'm glad that you finally come around. But give Bill a quarterback, and we move right along. This train keeps going. Everything starts and stops with the quarterback.
Who's giving Bill the quarterback?
Bill is giving himself the quarterback.
Do you trust him to do that?
Mac Jones has let me calm down. Mac Jones has single-handedly took apart everything we've built for the last 20 years.
Who drafted Mac Jones?
But hear me out. I don't believe, and I'm being honest when I say this, I don't believe Mac Jones was a Bill Belichick fit. I think Bill Belichick is smart enough to know that Mac Jones was not a good quarterback.
Okay, so then who drafted Mac Jones?
Robert Kraft.
Okay, why did Robert Kraft feel like he had to step in?
Because Bill wasn't going to take Mac Jones.
Well, no. All right, we'll take it a little further. Why did Kraft need to step in and feel like he had to do that? Because Bill let the quarterback position get to a point where they had to take a guy. Because Bill's mismanaged the position going back to like 2019.
Mismanaged the position.
Yeah, they knew Brady was going, and they didn't bring in the next guy.
He had Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He was forced to let Tom Brady go by Robert Kraft because Robert Kraft didn't want to pay him, in my humble opinion, and the opinion of a lot of other Patriots fans. I believe that Bill Belichick wanted to keep Tom Brady.
I think it's been reported the other way. Evan, maybe I'll misremember. Honest question.
Okay, no,
but
I appreciate the call, Will, and I hear what you're saying with Bill because, first of all, and thanks for the call again, we yesterday were messing around with people because we think this is a straw man thing, right? Where everybody is now of the belief that Bill did nothing like that, and I don't think anybody's actually saying that, right? That's the straw man, right? Like,
right.
I don't think anybody is actually saying
you're saying did nothing over the last 20 years.
Yeah, that Bill had no hand in this. Now maybe we are now seeing, and I think this is actually Will's point because he said it's all about the quarterback. We are now seeing that Tom was probably more responsible for their success than Bill, but that doesn't mean that Bill had no hand in it. That just means that, okay, if you're handing out the credit, Brady maybe gets 60% and Bill gets 40, or however you want to splice it up. I don't care. So that's all the point that we actually agree with the caller that Bill had a lot of hand in it. It was obviously, duh, right? I think the thing with Mac, and I agree again with Will that a lot of Patriots fans feel the way that Will does, that Mac just stinks.
Right.
That Mac was bad.
I get that a lot of players feel that way.
He was a bad prospect to begin with, and he was just never going to be good in the NFL. And I think that there's maybe an ounce of truth to that he was a limited prospect coming out. I thought that at the time, that there was, he was a limited prospect at the time. But the problem is how the situation was handled. It was handled poorly on multiple levels. And we broke this down in the first 30 minutes. In terms of the personnel, we've been over that. We've, asked and answered on that a million times. The personnel is what it is. The coaching, and then the mind games that Belichick has played with him from the jump. If you knew that you had, let's just say you knew that you had at best a league average quarterback.
Yeah.
Like even with all of the pieces together and all of the coaching staff together, you had at best the 16th best quarterback in the NFL. Wouldn't you be doing everything under your power to elevate that player? Like if you knew that he's not going to be the one elevating it, then why wouldn't every single move that you are making on offense be catered to making that guy better? A la the San Francisco 49ers, where they look at Brock Purdy and they know that Brock Purdy is not Aaron Rodgers, he's not Tom Brady, he's not Patrick Mahomes. So instead, we're going to trade for Christian McCaffrey, we're going to keep Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, and we're just going to keep on adding talent on the offensive side of the ball. Brandon Ayuk, right? Like these types of guys. The Patriots, if you believe that Bill didn't make the pick for Mac,
right,
then you believe that Bill thought that Mac stunk to begin with.
Right.
And Bill's response to thinking Mac stunk to begin with was Nelson Aguilar. Or it was Juju Smith-Schuster.
Right.
It was Mike Gesicki. Like, how does that jive? Because if you thought Mac stinks, then wouldn't the moves be a little bit bigger swings?
Right.
Because to me, the way that they operated was the total opposite. They operated like they thought that they had a franchise quarterback that was going to take these receivers and make them look good. Instead, it's done the total opposite.
And if you're going to say, all right, well, Bill wanted to prove a point to Robert Kraft, and that's why he did that. Well, if that's where his focus
ran himself out of town.
Great. If that's where his focus is, then his focus isn't in the right place.
Right.
And I don't think he's the guy for the job. Again, and I didn't mean to be like snarky with the caller. I appreciate the call. They're fair points. I've kind of been waiting for somebody to ask me that question because, again, that's what it comes back to. It comes as a defense. People interpret this as a defense of Mac Jones. It's not. Mac Jones, the problem doesn't end at Mac Jones. People act like Mac Jones was placed in New England by some supernatural power and nobody here could do anything about it. And they were just saddled with him. Bill Belichick picked him.
Yeah.
And you can say Robert Kraft stepped in all you want. Why did Robert Kraft have to do that? Because Bill Belichick failed to get the next guy before Tom Brady left. And it's not to say he didn't try. He tried. Stidham wasn't the guy. Danny Etling wasn't the guy.
Oh, no. Danny Etling was not trying.
But just the quarterbacks he's drafted, right?
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett, like a journeyman bridge starter, but he wasn't a franchise quarterback.
Right,
and I know people...
I'm not...
No, you got to let me get to the next one. You got to let me get to the next one. I know people disagree with this. Jimmy Garoppolo, not the guy. So it's not like he swung once on Mac and it's, give him another chance. The last time Bill Belichick found a guy that was like a quarterback you could even somewhat build around, you got to go back to Matt Castle.
Yeah. So the Will's response, and I'm speaking for him, so but people like Will, I guess I should say, because I don't know Will's opinion on this. People like Will will point to Jimmy G, right? Like they'll point to Garoppolo, that Bill had the next guy, and Brady outplayed it, right? Like Brady outlasted Jimmy Garoppolo here in New England. And the Patriots made, at the time, you could talk about the return of the trade and all you want, but the Patriots made the only decision that they could possibly make, which was trading Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not keeping Jimmy Garoppolo over Tom Brady. You're just not doing that. So they made the only decision that they could. But at that point, they went all in, and I don't necessarily blame them, but they went all in and continuing to surround Brady. You know, they trade a first-round pick for Brandon Cooks. They used first-round picks on tackles and running backs and wide receivers. Like, they went all in on keeping Brady in a title contender, like keeping this team title contending, instead of looking at the quarterback and drafting the next guy. So their highest draft pick, I believe, was Stidham, who is still a fourth-round pick. Like, we're not talking about them like doing Jimmy G redux and drafting somebody in the top, 65 picks. So I hear the caller because Bill's resume speaks for itself. Bill's should be, whether or not the media does a disservice or not, Bill's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Bill's the greatest head coach of all time. And to run Bill out of town because of Mac Jones, I understand why some people feel like, why are we doing that? Like, why are we getting rid of the greatest head coach of all time because one quarterback didn't work out? And if you really don't like Mac, then you probably have some strong feelings about why.
Right.
But at the same time, I think you have to look at the whole product. Like, we went on a whole rant for like 15 minutes earlier in the show about special teams. That's Bill's MO. Special teams is Bill's area, right? And they stink at special teams. Their offense has been a disaster for 2 years. So these are things that Bill has done that that go beyond just Mac Jones.
And you look at the draft history, too. Again, and I don't want this to come across as me. I hate the Brady versus Bill thing. I don't think there's one without the other.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time.
Yep.
He's the greatest defensive mind in the history of the game. He should not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He should get his own special induction ceremony. Him and Brady should go in together. It will never happen, but it should.
Can RKK go with them? Can we do like a trio?
He should be in before that, but yeah, sure.
Like,
okay.
Let's just do Patriot
Okay, just to
Day
have a
in
Patriots
Canton.
Hall of Fame induction. I'm all for that.
The rest of the NFL will totally go for that.
Yeah, seriously. But sometimes you need a certain guy for a certain job.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick took and managed, and just hang with me here. Yes, they were dominant for decades. It's not necessarily easy to manage that.
Yeah.
Because of this whole thing, Brady versus Bill versus this versus that. He kept it all in check. He kept them sustainable for 2 decades. Remember we were talking about the Bills were the next great dynasty?
No, we weren't.
I don't know, Evan. I don't know. You were fanboying pretty hard.
I mean, I like Josh Allen, but
they're about to miss the playoffs, fire their coach.
The next great dynasty. I don't
They're about no one's talking about. They're about to miss their playoffs, fire their
Kansas
coach.
City, on the other hand,
we've talked about what a great job the Niners have done. They still haven't won a Super Bowl. For him, we'll see what Kansas City does.
Niners. Those are your.
That's your team and my team, the Bills and the Niners.
Yeah.
Why
am I the Bills?
Because you love the Bills.
I don't love
you
the
love the Bills.
Oh,
All right, I don't want to do this right now. The point being, sometimes you wouldn't hire an electrician to fix your toilet, right? This is not something Bill's ever had to do. He's never really gone. They did like a mini rebuild. It's a retool. It wasn't a rebuild. They did a retool in like the late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah.
Right? The 09 team that kind of had to strip that thing down, built it back up. But he's never really had to start from ground zero like this. And by the way, that's not to take anything away from him. Because I'd say managing it at the highest.
I wouldn't say he started from ground 0 in 2000, but that team needed a lot.
Okay,
of work.
so he did it once, but it was in a very different era.
Yeah.
It was in a very different era.
That's the biggest thing. It's
right.
the era.
Yes. This just isn't what he does. And he managed it at a high level. And he deserves a ton of credit for that because I think that's a lot harder than people realize. Oh, you're winning. What's hard to do?
I also think what was so hard about it is that because of the way that, they couldn't have possibly kept every single player all the time. So they had to just keep on churning out.
They had to keep finding guys. They kept finding guys. But like for the flip side, right? I think there are some coaches that are really good at getting the thing started, at coming in with the teardown. Right? You look at all the Shanahan tree guys. Shanahan, LaFleur, McDaniel. They're all really good at putting the foundation together. But they can't win when it matters. And they can't keep the sustained success. Because the house of cards falls apart.
I hope one of those coaches wins, just so I can tell you that.
And it will be one of 10 of them
Mike
in the league.
McDaniel.
How many collective seasons will that be? And they have one. Congratulations.
Well, I mean,
broken clocks right twice a day.
I mean, it's the same thing. With
but here's my point.
Andy Reid to an extent, like
it took Andy Reid how long? But this is my point.
It's hard.
There's just certain coaches that can and can't do certain things, and I think you need to find a guy that maybe is. Bill's never had to do this. In 20 years, he's never had to do this. He has certain philosophies that just don't pair with being 2-8, with starting from the ground up. I think you need to find a guy that's maybe more familiar with that.
All right, let's take these last 2 calls. Dan is in Minnesota. What's up, Dan?
Hi, guys. I just wanted to chime in with my observation. And again, I'm just a fan, too, seeing things from afar, but I kind of think that Belichick, early on in his tenure with the Patriots, he was probably more responsible for their success than Brady. Maybe 60-40, perhaps even 70-30, let's say, for the first 3 Super Bowls. During the middle of that era, though, I think it was more 50-50 as Brady came into his own. But I think the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years that Brady was with the Patriots, it was 60-40 Brady or maybe 70-30 Brady. I think Brady even had a better feel for where the league was going, the need for more offense, and I think Belichick kind of stubbornly resisted that, and that led to some conflict between Brady and Belichick at times. And so right now I think Belichick's style of coaching and his philosophy just doesn't fit the modern-day NFL, and especially with a losing team. I think during the time that they were winning, it was maybe a little bit easier for him to acquire talent via free agency and even get, let's say, better returns on trades and things like that. But now that they're losing, I think it's hard for them to attract free agents and get free agents at a decent price, or even get good returns on their own players that they want to trade. And I think that's hindering a lot of things. So I think Kraft just needs to change the whole regime, new coach, new GM, and see how it goes from there.
God, thanks for the call, Dan. We appreciate it. When it comes to like getting free agents and things like that, I don't necessarily agree with that piece of it. I think the biggest difference now compared to what it was back then was that all of the guys that they used to bring in back then when they had Brady, that was all supplementing the infrastructure that they already had in place. And so, like, when we go to think about some of these players, like a J.C. Jackson, like a Jack Jones, like a Trent Brown, those guys weren't so reliant on those guys to just be a competent football team like they are now.
Right.
Back then, it was like, all right, we're going to bring in Trent Brown in 2018. If he ends up playing well for us, then that's gravy, right? Great. We're going to trade for J.C. Jackson. We're going to get him back. If we can get him back to where he was in his first stint with the Patriots, that's a bonus. Now they have to have those guys perform at a high level. Like, those are your guys now.
Right.
That's the difference, I think, with all those types of things. This team, and we've had a few callers already that have said it. Like, this team needs those foundational.
You need a core, and that's what happens. And this gets back to the whole point. Bill, from the like Devin McCourty, Dante Hightower, James White, Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, like that core carried them.
Yeah.
Bill never established another core.
Yeah.
And that's mostly due to poor drafts, but it's due to a number of reasons. And that's why they're in the situation they're in now. And it's basically, if he failed to do that, does he get another shot at it here when he's kind of been struggling here for 5 or 6 years? Or do you say, all right, that's kind of, he had his chance, he didn't do it. The team's now fallen off. It's time to find somebody else and give him a shot.
All right. Quincy is in Columbus, Ohio. What's up, Quincy?
How's it going, fellas?
Hey.
So part of the Patriots fan base that really infuriate me are the ones that, blame Mac for all of the issues going on, as if Bill didn't choose Mac, didn't put the roster together, didn't draft the entire draft class for, since obviously the past forever years. It just doesn't make sense that they blame Mac. But everything that Bill has done are fireable offenses for the past 4 years, like from the draft class, from the situation with Mac, the offensive coordinator, like all those situations. Any other coach wouldn't survive that. And the fact that they're saying that Bill deserves another shot with another quarterback, are you kidding me? I wouldn't trust anyone less than Bill, in my humble opinion. All right, guys. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Quincy.
Good call. I don't know about that last line. There are certainly people I would trust less. Yeah. But everything leading up to that is kind of the point we're trying to make.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Yeah. I think some people simplify it to making it just about Mac Jones.
Right.
When really you have to look at the totality of how this has collapsed to 2-8. And that's where I think a lot of people that, only listen to like national media or only listen to certain, talk shows that are just talking about the big topics, right?
Yeah.
Like, the quarterback, the head coach, maybe some of the personnel moves, the lack of receivers, the lack of, star power on offense. But this is, if you look at their team from top to bottom, they're just not a very well-coached team.
No.
Besides maybe on defense, but even on defense, I still feel like they're holding this thing together.
Yeah, defense is weird because there's so many injuries, and it's a tough task for the coaches to have. But on offense and special teams, no, they're the things that the one metric I really use for coaching is penalties.
Yeah,
I think well-coached teams generally don't get penalized a lot. They're second in the league in special teams penalties, and I forget the exact number, but they're top 10 in the league in offensive penalties.
There you go. They're the numbers I use: 30th in DVOA on special teams. 26th, I think,
a coaching
now on
thing?
offense. It's just a general thing.
All right.
if you had better coaching, I think that you wouldn't be 30th.
You'd be better. It's not just talent. You don't get that low just
Especially
because
in
you're
the
not
kicking
talented.
game. I mean, there's only so many punters and kickers on.
Well, and they have a good punter.
Maybe.
I don't know about kicker. They have a good punter. No, they have a good punter. I'll tell you that. They have a good punter.
He outkicks his coverage a little bit.
Not really.
A little bit. All right. We're going to wrap it up. Yeah, Deuce, you stay over there.
No, he wants to come in and do the punter talk with us.
All right. He wants he wants to settle in, get his papers ahead, in order and all those things. So
blast the headphones.
We're going to wrap it up here. I don't know when we're going to be on the air next week because next Thursday is Thanksgiving. If you didn't know, I didn't know that until yesterday. So we'll have to figure out when we'll be on
probably
next
Wednesday,
week.
right?
Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around.
Not
Tuesday.
Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. But stay on
it's
for
the time of year the schedule gets super weird. There's no more routine between now and the end. It's a sprint to the finish.
We're gonna just keep.
Sorry, they gotta go. Sorry,
we're gonna keep filibustering just to.
I'm used to us being the late show.
Anyways,
I'll turn my mic off.
We'll see you guys next week, and PU's up next.
Bye.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.